Hi, my name is Ellen Duff, and my topic is the death penalty. So for the beginnings of the death penalty debate, started in 1972 when the death penalty was brought to the Supreme Court based off of a filtration problem, and this meant that there was no jurisdiction ensuring that only the worst offenders would get the ultimate punishment, and it also violated the Eighth Amendment that had a clause that states that cruel and unusual punishment is unconstitutional. The penalty was ruled unconstitutional in this case, and it nullified all existing death sentences for a 4-year period. After this 4-year period, the states were given the opportunity to revise the death penalty, and the states determined that the courts of each state would review each individual case, which would ensure individualized sentencing, and in doing this, they hoped that the penalty would not be imposed in a discriminatory manner. So, much like 1972, there is still much opposition today regarding the penalty. There are countless opposers in petition, and one opposer in particular is the American Civil Liberties Union. The American Civil Liberties Union believes that the penalty inherently violates the ban of cruel and unusual punishment, and that the state should not have the right to kill its citizens. They believe that it denies the due process of law due to its arbitrary nature, because since the death penalty is final and irreversible, it deprives an individual the opportunity to benefit from new evidence or laws that could possibly free them or overturn their conviction. They also believe that it violates equal protection because of its discriminatory nature in our society. It is often dependent on race, skill of your attorneys, where the crime took place, and this is clearly unfair to those who are poor and uneducated. The ACLU also argues that it is not an effective way of crime control because it does not confront the problem or the crime at hand, and it is a short-term fix for larger issues in our country. Although there is opposition, there's also support. In 2015, Nebraska was actually the first conservative state to overturn the death penalty, but this did not reflect the opinion of the people or the governor. The governor himself tried to veto the bill, but it was overrode. But in the following election, there was a ballot initiative which received money from the governor himself, which reinstated the punishment, and this actually reflected the overall will of the people. The overwhelming demographics of the supporters are white, older men, and partisanship explains much of who supports and who doesn't. An overwhelming 77% of Republicans are in favor of the penalty, while only 46% of Democrats are. In a journal article exploring the public support for capital punishment, it explains that advocating for harsher sentences or capital punishments expresses the moral outrage associated with crime and those who commit it. This is important in figuring out which cases people support the penalty. In cases such as murder, the numbers look a little different. When there is a murder at hand, 90% of all death penalty supporters think that it's justified, while a majority of 64% of the public thinks that it's justified. So it is clear to see that in our society, that cases with a more serious nature, or wherein people are in more outrage, or there's morals involved, people tend to support it and want to see justice done to the criminal at hand. According to Section 6.4 of the NASW Code of Ethics, I do not think the death penalty would align with these codes. I found that at the social worker's ethical responsibilities to the broader society, that a couple statements that I don't think coincide. One being that social workers could advocate for changes in policy to improve social conditions and to promote social justice. Another one being social workers should act to expand opportunity for the oppressed, disadvantaged, and exploited. Social workers should promote conditions that encourage respect for all groups of people, equity and social justice for all, and eliminating discrimination of any and all groups. Based off of the ACLU findings, I do not think these would coincide together based off of the discriminatory nature of the death penalty itself and how it affects a disproportional group of people. My question for the class is whether or not you think the death penalty is morally justified, just based off of the facts I shared and your personal opinion. So I'd like to see that in the replies. Thank you. And this is my work set.